You see, love is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers through silence. It lingers in the spaces between words, especially with those who guard their hearts fiercely. When someone who's avoidant admits their love for you, it is nothing short of a breakthrough, a monumental shift born from something deeper than surface emotions. It happens not because you forced it or demanded it, but because you created an atmosphere of profound safety, consistency, and authentic presence. Think about this: true love is born in vulnerability. But avoidants? They are the masters of armor. They've built walls to protect themselves from past pain, rejection, and the overwhelming fear of being swallowed by intimacy. So, what does it take for those walls to come down? It takes you showing up not as a storm that shakes their foundation, but as the calm that lets their soul breathe. They only admit their love when they know without a shadow of a doubt that their truth will not push you away. When your patience becomes a sanctuary, when your unwavering self-worth becomes a beacon, they begin to trust themselves enough to reveal what's buried deep inside. You see, love from an avoidant is not a casual admission. It is a courageous surrender. This moment is sacred. It is the moment fear transforms into courage, walls into windows, and silence into declarations. And this transformation starts with one divine principle. Love is a force that doesn't cling, it liberates. When you stop chasing, stop demanding, and start honoring the pace of the other's soul, love blooms with a power that is unstoppable. So stand tall in your own truth. Radiate the confidence that you are worthy of love exactly as you are. Create a space where vulnerability isn't punished but celebrated. Because when you do, the avoidant in your life will not just admit their love, they will reveal the depths of it, like a river breaking through the dam, unstoppable and beautiful. This is the power of love that respects, heals, and transforms. And it's waiting for you, just beyond the horizon of patience and presence. Emotional safety is the invisible bedrock upon which real love can be built, especially when dealing with someone who identifies as avoidant. To understand this, you have to realize that avoidants are not simply distant or indifferent. They are deeply wired to protect themselves from emotional pain, often because of past experiences where vulnerability led to hurt, rejection, or abandonment. Their natural instinct is to build walls, to retreat behind emotional barriers, and to avoid the intensity of feelings that might make them feel exposed or out of control. So, when an avoidant finally admits their love, it is always because they feel an unprecedented level of emotional safety, a rare and precious state where their guarded heart trusts that it will not be harmed. Emotional safety isn't about grand gestures or overwhelming declarations. It is subtle, quiet, and often invisible. It is the sense that no matter what is said or felt, the other person will hold space without judgment or attack. For an avoidant, this means they can show up as their authentic selves without fear of being criticized, controlled, or abandoned. When this safety exists, the avoidant's defenses begin to lower naturally, because they realize that love isn't a battlefield where they have to constantly defend themselves. Instead, it's a sanctuary where they can be seen and accepted fully, flaws and all. This safety is created over time through consistent actions rather than empty promises. It's not about telling them "I love you" repeatedly and hoping it sticks. It's about showing up reliably, being present in moments of calm and crisis alike. It means listening without trying to fix, holding space without needing an explanation, and offering compassion without conditions. This kind of emotional consistency communicates to an avoidant that they are not alone and that their feelings will be met with kindness rather than fear or frustration. Creating emotional safety also involves respecting boundaries and recognizing the avoidant's need for space. It's a paradox many don't understand. By honoring their need for independence, you actually build trust and closeness. When you push or demand too much too soon, it triggers their flight response, causing them to withdraw even deeper. But when you gently hold the space for them to come forward in their own time, you're essentially telling their nervous system, it's okay to relax here. You don't have to run. This reassurance is powerful because it rewrites their old programming that intimacy equals danger. Emotional safety is also deeply connected to emotional attunement, the ability to sense and respond appropriately to another's feelings. When you can mirror back their emotions without judgment or overwhelm, you validate their inner experience. For avoidants, who often learn to suppress or deny emotions to cope, this validation is transformative. It tells them their feelings matter and are worthy of being expressed. Over time, this validation chips away at their internalized belief that vulnerability is weakness, and instead, it plants the seeds for courage to love openly. Moreover, emotional safety requires an absence of shame and blame. Avoidants carry a heavy burden of shame around their emotional needs and their ways of coping with intimacy. When they feel criticized or shamed for being too distant or too guarded, it only reinforces their defenses. But when you approach them with curiosity and acceptance, asking gentle questions instead of ultimatums, you create a fertile ground for their love to emerge. They learn that their feelings, even the difficult or contradictory ones, will be met with understanding rather than rejection. In essence, emotional safety is the invitation to show up fully and be accepted without having to change or perform. It is the realization that love is not about controlling or fixing the other person, but about embracing them as even in their imperfections and fears. For avoidants, who have spent so long hiding behind masks and walls, emotional safety is the moment when they finally believe that love is not a trap, but a home. Without emotional safety, avoidants remain in survival mode, distant and disengaged. But when safety is cultivated, it opens a door to intimacy, allowing love to be expressed not as a hesitant confession, but as a powerful, heartfelt admission. It is the foundation that transforms avoidance into connection, fear into trust, and silence into love. Consistency is one of the most powerful forces in human relationships, especially when it comes to connecting with someone who is avoidant. For avoidance, trust is not easily given. It is earned through repeated, dependable actions that prove safety over time. Because avoidants have often experienced unpredictability or emotional chaos in their past, they approach intimacy with caution, scanning for any signs that their vulnerability might be used against them. When they finally admit their love, it is not a spontaneous burst of emotion, but the result of a consistent, steady experience that assures them they can rely on you emotionally and psychologically. Trust is built slowly, like the steady drip of water carving a canyon. It's not something that can be rushed or forced. In fact, attempts to accelerate the process usually backfire with avoidance, causing them to shut down or pull away further. What they need instead is a pattern of behavior that is predictable, steady, and genuine. When you show up consistently in your words, your actions, and your presence, you send a clear message that you are dependable, trustworthy, and safe to lean on. Consistency means being reliable not only in the big moments, but also in the everyday interactions. It means following through on your promises, no matter how small, and demonstrating that your care is not conditional or fleeting. For an avoidant, witnessing this unwavering reliability gradually chips away at the armor they wear, because it creates a sense of stability where once there was uncertainty. They begin to believe that your love is not just a temporary phase or an emotional reaction, but a steady force that they can count on. This steady presence counters the avoidant's inner narrative that closeness inevitably leads to pain or loss. When they experience your consistency, their nervous system begins to recalibrate, shifting from fight or flight to a state of calm and openness. They start to see you not as a threat to their autonomy, but as an ally in their emotional journey. This shift is monumental because it lays the groundwork for them to admit their love without fear or hesitation. It's also important to understand that consistency is more about quality than quantity. It's not about bombarding the avoidant with constant messages or demands for attention. Instead, it's about showing genuine care in ways that respect their pace and boundaries. A consistent tone of kindness, patience, and respect resonates far more deeply than frantic efforts to draw them out. This kind of consistency honors their need for space while gently reinforcing that you are there, steadfast and patient. The power of consistency extends beyond just actions. It also lives in emotional availability. Avoidants are hypersensitive to emotional volatility and unpredictability. When your emotional responses are stable and measured, you provide a safe container for their feelings to emerge. This steadiness invites them to step closer without fear of being overwhelmed or rejected. Over time, they learn that your love is not a roller coaster of highs and lows, but a steady path they can walk alongside you. Another key element of consistency is communication. Avoidants often struggle with expressing their feelings, partly because they are uncertain about how their emotions will be received. When you consistently create an environment where honest communication is welcomed without judgment, you build trust that they can speak their truth safely. This communication doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be genuine and consistent. Over time, the avoidant learns that honesty is met with acceptance, which makes it easier for them to admit their love. Consistency also has a profound impact on the avoidant's internal belief system. Many avoidants have deep-seated fears that they are not lovable or that others will inevitably leave them. When you show up consistently, you begin to dismantle these fears by embodying reliability and care. Your consistency becomes a living proof that love can be steady, enduring, and non-threatening. In essence, consistency is the quiet hero in the journey from avoidance to connection. It is the steady drumbeat that transforms suspicion into trust, distance into closeness, and fear into love. When an avoidant finally admits their love, it is often because your consistent presence has created a foundation so strong and so safe that their heart can no longer resist breaking free. Authentic connection is the hidden key that opens the door to the hearts of avoidants. It is not superficial charm, forced intimacy, or fleeting moments of closeness. Instead, authentic connection is a deep, honest, and grounded way of relating that transcends fear and invites true vulnerability. Avoidants build barriers not because they don't want love, they build them because love, when it is inauthentic or overwhelming, feels like a threat. But when connection is genuine, it has the power to disarm those defenses and draw them into a space where love can be openly acknowledged. To truly connect authentically means to show up fully as yourself, without masks, without pretense, and without the need to control how the other person perceives you. Authenticity creates a mirror that invites the avoidant to lower their own defenses because it models a way of being that is safe and real. When you are authentic, you're saying to the avoidant, "Here I am, flaws and all, and I accept you just as you are." This acceptance is a balm for an avoidant's wary soul because it gently contradicts the belief they may carry that they have to hide their true selves to be loved. Authentic connection also means engaging with honesty and openness, even when it feels uncomfortable. It means being willing to share your own vulnerabilities, fears, and imperfections, thereby creating a relational space where the avoidant feels safe to do the same. Avoidants are experts at emotional self-protection, but when they witness someone else courageously stepping into their own truth, it inspires them to do likewise. This isn't about pressuring or forcing disclosure. It's about lighting a path that invites them to walk alongside you, step by step, toward deeper intimacy. Another powerful element of authentic connection is presence, being fully attentive and engaged in the moment without distraction or judgment. Avoidants often feel invisible or misunderstood. So when you give them your genuine attention, it tells them that they matter and that their experience is valid. This presence fosters a sense of belonging, which is the foundation of connection. When avoidants feel truly seen and heard, their walls start to soften because they experience a relationship where they don't have to perform or prove themselves to earn love. Authentic connection respects boundaries and honors individual autonomy. This respect is crucial because avoidants are highly sensitive to any hint of control or pressure, which triggers their instinct to withdraw. By honoring their need for space and independence, you demonstrate that connection does not mean losing oneself, but rather finding a place where two people can coexist with freedom and respect. This balance of closeness and autonomy makes it possible for avoidants to admit their love without feeling trapped or overwhelmed. The language you use in authentic connection also matters. Avoidants respond deeply to sincerity rather than exaggeration or manipulation. When your words are grounded in truth and your intentions clear, you build a bridge of trust that allows love to flourish. Authentic communication acknowledges both your feelings and theirs, creating a shared reality where both can be vulnerable without fear of rejection or invalidation. Authentic connection also involves empathetic ability to understand and feel into the avoidance experience without trying to change it. This empathetic stance tells them that their emotions and fears are valid and that they do not have to hide them to be accepted. It's a radical form of love that does not seek to fix or rescue, but to simply be present with what is. This acceptance softens resistance and invites avoidants to lower their shields and open their hearts. Perhaps most importantly, authentic connection offers avoidants a different story about love. Rather than love being something to escape from or fear, it becomes a source of nourishment, strength. Through this connection, avoidants begin to see that admitting love is not a risk of losing themselves, but a courageous act of embracing life fully. They learn that love can be a safe harbor rather than a battlefield. In this way, authentic connection breaks down the barriers that avoidants have spent years building. It shifts their experience from one of isolation and fear to one of hope and possibility. When avoidants finally admit their love, it is because they have been touched by this kind of real, honest connection that honors their humanity and invites them to step into love on their own terms. Patience is not simply waiting. It is a sacred virtue that transforms the landscape of relationships, especially when dealing with someone who has avoidant tendencies. The avoidant's heart is like a fortress, built over years of self-protection, past wounds, and fears of intimacy. To break through those walls takes more than urgency or desire, requires the profound gift of patience. Without patience, the avoidant will only feel pressure, and pressure breeds resistance, causing them to retreat further into their emotional cocoon. But with patience, love finds a rhythm, a pace that honors their internal journey and allows their guarded heart to gradually open. When you practice patience with an avoidant, you are saying something powerful without words. I see you. I honor your process. I am willing to wait for you to arrive in your own time. This message, when truly felt, creates a fertile ground for trust to grow. Avoidance, fear being overwhelmed or consumed by intimacy. So rushing them only confirms their worst fears. That closeness equals loss of control and freedom. Patience, on the other hand, becomes a quiet reassurance that they are free to move at a pace that feels safe, that their boundaries will be respected, and that love does not require sacrificing their autonomy. Patience is sacred because it mirrors the rhythms of life itself. Just as a seed takes time to grow roots before it can blossom, an avoidant's capacity for love needs time to take hold beneath the surface before it can be expressed openly. Rushing this natural progression disrupts the growth and often causes the avoidant to withdraw even more. But when you align with patience, you become a gardener of the heart, tending to the soil, nurturing the roots, and trusting the timing of the bloom. This attitude invites the avoidant to lean into connection without fear, knowing that their unfolding will be honored rather than forced. Moreover, patience is a demonstration of your own emotional strength and maturity. It shows that your love is not conditional or reactive, but steady and enduring. Avoidants are keen observers of emotional dynamics. They can sense desperation or neediness, which triggers their protective mechanisms. When you respond with patience, you embody a love that is spacious and expansive, allowing both of you to breathe and grow. This steadiness encourages the avoidant to come forward when they are ready, without fear of judgment or rejection. Patience also teaches the valuable lesson of surrender, not to defeat, but to acceptance. Accepting that you cannot control or rush another person's emotional process is liberating. It shifts the focus from trying to fix or push the avoidant to simply being present with them as they navigate their fears and defenses. This acceptance is deeply healing for avoidants because it counters their internalized belief that they must be perfect or unflappable to be worthy of love. Instead, they learn that love includes space for imperfection and hesitation. In addition, patience fosters resilience in the relationship. Relationships with avoidance can be marked by cycles of closeness and distance, moments of connection followed by withdrawal. If you are impatient, These fluctuations can feel like setbacks or failures, leading to frustration and despair. But with patience, these cycles become part of the natural ebb and flow of intimacy. You learn to ride the waves without being capsized by them, trusting that each retreat is an invitation to deeper understanding rather than a signal to give up. Patience also creates a container for compassion. It allows you to hold the avoidance, fears, and vulnerabilities with kindness rather than judgment. This compassionate stance is essential because avoidants often struggle with feelings of shame or inadequacy around their emotional needs. When you respond patiently, you communicate that their inner struggles are seen and accepted, not a cause for withdrawal or criticism. This acceptance softens their defenses and invites them to reveal the love they have been hiding. Finally, patience is an act of faith in the process of love, faith in the avoidance capacity to grow, and faith in the transformative power of time. It is a commitment to the relationship not just in moments of ease, but through challenges and uncertainty. This faith becomes a lighthouse, guiding the avoidant safely toward admitting their love when the moment is right. Through patience, you embody a love that is not hurried, forced, or frantic, but steady, kind, and enduring. It is this sacred virtue that makes it possible for avoidants to emerge from their shells and share the love they have held back for so long. Self-love is often spoken about as a foundation for healthy relationships, but its importance is magnified when it comes to connecting with someone who has avoidant tendencies. Avoidants struggle deeply with intimacy, not only because of their fears of closeness, but because they often reflect back the energy they receive. When you embody self-love, you create a magnetic force that shifts the entire dynamic of the relationship. Avoidants only admit their love when they witness your unwavering self-respect and self-worth, because it signals to them that the relationship is built on a solid, grounded foundation, one that is not about dependency or needings, but about mutual respect and emotional balance. At its core, self-love is about embracing yourself fully, including your strengths, vulnerabilities, and imperfections. It is the recognition that you are worthy of love simply because you exist, not because you perform or change to meet someone else's expectations. When avoidants observe this in you, it challenges their internal narrative that love must come with conditions, or that vulnerability equals weakness. Your self-love becomes a mirror reflecting the truth that love can be free, accepting, and empowering, rather than restrictive or fearful. This reflection has a profound impact on the avoidant's willingness to admit their love. Avoidants tend to withdraw when they sense that the other person is emotionally dependent or insecure, because this triggers their fear of engulfment or losing themselves in the relationship. But when you model self-love, you send a clear message: I am whole on my own, and my love for you is a choice, not a necessity. This message offers them a safe space where they don't have to carry the weight of your emotional needs. They feel invited to connect, not out of obligation, but because they genuinely want to. Self-love also means setting healthy boundaries. Boundaries communicate respect for your own needs and limits, which in turn teaches avoidants how to relate to you with respect and care. When you maintain clear boundaries, you prevent the relationship from becoming a tug-of-war between closeness and distance. This balance reduces the avoidant's anxiety, because it shows that love can coexist with independence. They learn that admitting love doesn't require sacrificing personal space or freedom, which makes the idea of vulnerability less threatening. Moreover, self-love is expressed in the way you communicate with yourself and others. The language you use about yourself sets the tone for how avoidants perceive the relationship. If you speak with kindness, confidence, and clarity, it reinforces the idea that you value yourself and your emotional well-being. Avoidants are more likely to open their hearts when they sense that their partner is emotionally grounded and resilient. Conversely, self-criticism or self-doubt can amplify their fears and push them further into withdrawal. The practice of self-love also includes self-awareness, the ability to recognize your own triggers, emotions, and patterns. When you are attuned to yourself, you can respond to the avoidance behavior from a place of calm and understanding, rather than reaction or fear. This emotional stability encourages avoidance to come forward because it reduces the likelihood of conflict or emotional chaos, which they instinctively avoid. Your self-awareness models emotional intelligence, inviting them to engage in a more conscious and compassionate way. Self-love invites a shift from seeking validation externally to finding worth internally. Avoidants, who often fear losing themselves and others, are drawn to partnering who demonstrate that fulfillment comes from within. This shift breaks the cycle of chasing or pushing, replacing it with a dynamic where love flows naturally and freely. When avoidants see this, they feel safe enough to admit their feelings without fear of rejection or engulfment. Ultimately, self-love creates an energetic field that transforms the relationship. It fosters a sense of safety, respect, and balance that avoids the pitfalls of codependency or emotional volatility. It shows avoidants that love is not a trap, but a choice made from a place of strength and wholeness. When they witness this in you, their defenses soften and their hearts open, allowing them to admit the love they have kept hidden. Fear is the silent force that governs much of the avoidance experience with love and intimacy. It lurks beneath their actions, steering them away from closeness and vulnerability. This fear often originates from deep-rooted beliefs that intimacy means losing control, being overwhelmed, or risking rejection and abandonment. For avoidants, love is a battlefield where emotions feel too intense, unpredictable, and dangerous. Yet, it is precisely the transformation of this fear into courage that marks the moment they can finally admit their love. This transformation is neither sudden nor easy. It is a gradual process of facing the unknown and choosing connection over safety in isolation. At the heart of this transformation lies an inner battle, the desire to love and be loved versus the fear of being hurt. Avoidants often live in a paradoxical tension where they long for connection but are terrified of the vulnerability it requires. To admit love means stepping into a space where they are seen fully, including their flaws and fears, and where they risk being vulnerable to another's judgment or rejection. This requires an immense amount of courage to embrace uncertainty and to trust that their love will not be met with betrayal or abandonment. Transforming fear into courage begins with awareness. The avoidant must first recognize their fear rather than push it down or deny it. This awareness is crucial because fear, when unacknowledged, controls behavior unconsciously. By bringing fear into the light, they gain the power to understand it and make conscious choices in spite of it. This process often involves moments of deep self-reflection, sometimes spurred by the presence of a patient, understanding partner who offers a safe container for exploration without judgment. Courage grows in an environment of emotional safety, which serves as a crucible for transformation. When avoidants feel secure enough to explore their fears without being shamed or pressured, they begin to experiment with vulnerability. They learn that expressing their love does not have to lead to catastrophe, and that their fears, while real, can be managed and softened through connection. This experience weakens the hold fear has over them, making room for courageous acts of openness. Another vital element in this transformation is the willingness to take small steps. Courage doesn't demand grand declarations. Immediately, it often starts with subtle sign-sharing of feeling, asking for closeness, or simply acknowledging the desire to connect. Each small act of vulnerability builds momentum, creating a positive feedback loop that reinforces their ability to face fear. Over time, these small acts become the foundation for bigger leaps, culminating in the profound admission of love. Transforming fear into courage also requires self-compassion. Avoidants tend to be harsh critics of themselves, believing that their fear and distance make them unworthy of love. Cultivating compassion for their own emotional struggles allows them to soften their self-judgment and embrace their humanity. This self-acceptance is empowering because it reduces shame and creates the inner conditions necessary for courageous vulnerability. The support of a compassionate partner plays a pivotal role as well. When someone consistently demonstrates patience, understanding, and unwavering acceptance, it models a new way of relating that contrasts with the avoidant's past experiences. This relational safety helps dismantle the belief that vulnerability leads to pain, showing instead that it can lead to connection, healing, and growth. Knowing that their love will be met with kindness rather than criticism, emboldens avoidants to take the risk of admitting it. Ultimately, transforming fear into courage is a journey of reclaiming power over one's emotional life. It is the shift from being ruled by protective instincts to consciously choosing connection, even when it feels scary. It means redefining love not as a threat, but as a source of strength, growth, and fulfillment. When avoidants make this transformation, admitting their love becomes not just a possibility, but an act of bravery and liberation. This transformation is profound because it opens the door to a fuller, richer experience of life and relationships. It moves the avoidant from isolation to intimacy, from fear to freedom, and from silence to the courageous declaration of love. It is a testament to the resilience of the human heart and the transformative power of trust, patience, and genuine connection. As we come to the close of this journey together, remember, this love is not about rushing or forcing a heart to open. It's about creating a space so safe, so genuine, and so patient that even the most guarded soul feels invited to step forward. When you show up with consistency, authenticity, and unwavering self-love, you become the beacon that transforms fear into courage. And that is when avoidants not because they are ready in an instant, but because they feel truly safe admit their love. This process is a testament to the divine rhythm of relationships, where timing, trust, and presence align to break down barriers and reveal the power of connection. It takes faith, it takes strength, and above all, it takes love, the kind of love that honors freedom and embraces vulnerability. Thank you for allowing me to share these insights with you today. May you walk forward with patience and courage, knowing that the love you seek and deserve is already within reach. Keep being the light that calls others home, and watch how hearts open when they know they are truly seen. Thank you.